read the situation. They had an emotional day yesterday. Tom Thibodeau probably thought they needed a little bit of time off and a chance to talk and get through this situation a little bit.
Yeah, what the joke I made was you can't pull a Costanza on Friday and then come in Monday and act like nothing's wrong. We're just going to do work as usual, right? And they had a crazy practice. Beyond all the stuff that happened, I think the main thing is Karl-Anthony Towns was humiliated, right?
Well, I don't know about that.
I'm not talking about at the moment.
I was going to say, I don't love that being the storyline because that doesn't sound to me like it happened.
But I'm not talking about the moment. I'm talking about the aftermath. Yeah. Regardless of what happened in the moment in the practice, the aftermath of the conversation of the last 24 hours is Jimmy Butler went in there, he took the third-string guys, he beat the first-string guys, and told Towns, come do it to me, and he couldn't do it to him. There's no way Karl-Anthony Towns said, yeah, that was a good practice. He walks away after hearing all the reactions, feeling slighted, really. And so I don't know, it says, oh, Jimmy's considering staying in Minnesota. I don't know if he can walk back like Costanza and just act like nothing happened.
First of all, he's not considering staying in Minnesota. He has two choices right now.
He's
play in Minnesota or don't get paid.
Right, yeah.
And he's not going to choose not getting paid.
No, absolutely not. And he's not going to put off his free agency, which would happen if he didn't report for regular season games. So all of that stuff. This is everybody trying to make the situation work until the situation can change. Welcome indeed to The Jump. I am Rachel Nichols. Alongside me, Nell Hassan. Coach Stan Van Gundy making his jump debut today. We are very, very happy with us.
Glad to be here.
I'm thinking of all the different cities you and I have worked together or near each other in, and I'm happy now to have it here in LA on the show. So thanks very much. I appreciate it. And look, coming up, we are going to initiate Stan Van by playing our favorite game here at The Jump. What were you thinking, right? Which, I mean, there's no one better than that. So stay tuned for that. Yesterday, I was out on assignment, scheduled to interview Jimmy Butler in his home of Minnesota. What I was not expecting was that emotional first practice with the Wolves. Look, a lot happened there. We have an exclusive extended version of our conversation with Jimmy, and there's stuff in here you haven't seen before. Take a listen. So, boy, you had an eventful day.
You could say that.
You returned to practice for the first time with the Wolves, and I'm just gonna read a little bit of Adrian Wojnarowski's report on what happened there. That you were loud, emotional, passionate, we like to say. Targeting Coach Tom Thibodeau, teammates like Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, that you told GM Scott Layton, quote, you effing need me. How would you describe what happened today?
A lot of it's true. A lot of it is true. But you got to think, I haven't played basketball in so long, and I'm so passionate, and I love the game, and I don't do it for any other reason except for to compete and go up against the best to try to prove that I can hang. So all my emotion came out at one time. Was it the right way to do it? No. But I can't control that when I'm out there competing. Like, that's my love of the game. That's raw me. Me at my finest, me at my purest. That's what you're gonna get inside the lines. And
I was gonna say, is it not the right way for it to come out? Do you think it was the wrong thing to do, or was it an okay thing to do?
I think that I was honest. Was I brutally honest? Yes. But I think that that's the problem. Everybody's so scared to be honest with one another. If you didn't like the way that I handled myself in practice, one of the players come up to me. Somebody say something. Anybody. I'm not going to take it offense. It's not personal. Jimmy, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, you probably right. I would have said, I ain't hooped in I don't know how long. I mean, I'm passionate about it. I love the game and I love to win. And that's all I was out there doing was competing. And right now, I know THIBS. He's in there by himself, he locked his door, and he's smiling. He's laughing. THIBS, I know you, man. I know you. He's like, yeah.
You think he's happy with what happened today?
Yeah.
So you were back in practice today. I assume you're going back tomorrow.
I am.
Should people think because you are back in practice that this is fixed or it's on its way to being fixed?
I think people think that. I would think that too.
What do you think?
It's not. It's not fixed. Let's just be honest. It's not fixed.
Is it fixable?
It could be. It could be. But do I think so? No. Because you got to be honest. I'm being honest. Do I think so? No. I'm being honest with you. But is everybody going to be honest? No.
I want to go back and talk about how we got to this point. but I do want to make it clear to everybody watching here, the collective bargaining agreement says that you cannot talk about wanting a trade, you cannot talk about asking someone for a trade, you will get heavily fined if you do that. We are not asking you to sit here and get fined. However, I am going to talk about published reports that are a matter of public record, that the report said that you said in meetings that you wanted to trade. So that is how we will have this conversation. And I want to go back because the first thing we saw of you publicly with THIBS here in Minnesota was that press conference at the Mall of America. You guys are both riding so high, being back united with each other. You start the season. When do you start to realize that things are going wrong or not the way that you want them to be?
It just all goes back to telling the truth and being honest with myself, with me being honest with them being honest with me. And you just look at it. And the whole thing is, I just want to be appreciated. That's it.
Okay.
It's not about anything else. Not the defense, not the points. It's the passion, the heart that I play with on every single possession. And that's all that it is.
We hear a lot of chatter about the Wolves locker room and the guys don't get along. What is the real story about what's going on in the locker room between you guys?
Everybody has to have winning as their #1 priority. Everybody, winning is all that we're worried about.
Did you feel that that wasn't the case with everyone?
I'm not gonna say no names, but I'm gonna be honest. If your #1 priority isn't winning and people can tell, that's the battle. Now there's a problem between people because that guy's #1 priority is winning and that guy's isn't. Of course they're gonna clash. Like, I'm doing this for the team. Are you? Exactly. So that's where the disconnect is.
Wiggins attacking Richardson. Oh! Butler, a step back three is gone. Jimmy Butler. The drought is finally over.
You go through the season, you were hurt, came back, you guys had that stirring return to get into the playoffs. Playoff series against the #1 seed.
That's a really good team too, by the way.
You didn't fly home with the rest of the team after the last game
Correct.
of your first-round playoff series. After the season ended, did you talk to Coach THIBS?
Yes, I did.
So when you guys talked even over the phone after the season was over,
He knows how I felt.
how soon after the season did you tell him how you feel?
4 days.
4 days after the season.
4.
How clear were you?
Have you ever known me to hide anything?
I'm just asking.
Look what happened today at practice.
I know.
Have you ever known me to hold back? No. I was completely honest about everything.
And about what you wanted and where you wanted to be. And he has 2 jobs here, right? So he's the coach of the team. He's also the president of the team. So through the summers, you guys are also talking about contract stuff. And they offered you an extension that would have given you 4 years, $110 million. The reports are that you wanted something that was going to, if they had moved some other pieces around and freed up more money, that you would have gotten a renegotiation that would have given you a shorter term of the contract, but more money. Is all that accurate?
It's accurate, but it's not even, it's not about money.
So tell me what it's about.
It's about like saying, we need you. We want you here. We can't do this without you. And that was the disconnect all year long. Like you're saying one thing and you're saying it and you're saying it and you're saying it. I mean, I've learned enough times in life that, saying something is completely different than acting upon it. Say actions speak louder than words, whatever quote you want to use. And when it came to that point, it was like, I let y'all know what the deal was as soon as you traded for me. I told you the truth from day one, and I will continue to do it. And I did it. And it's kind of like, I don't know, slap in the face. I don't know how to put it, but it made me think like, maybe I'm not that important to your organization. That is how I took it.
How often through the summer did you communicate how you felt?
All the time. Anytime, Tibbs, you call, you text me, to an extent, I was always answering.
Same answer.
Every time.
So this doesn't really get reported through the summer. And then boom, a week before training camp, here come all the reports. Jimmy Butler asked for a trade.
It wasn't a week before. We've been talking all summer long. Everybody knew the truth throughout the organization because I'm going to tell you the truth. Like it or not, it wasn't just then. So we can put that to rest. It was not just then.
I will say, when all those stories came out and the headlines were Jimmy Butler asked for a trade, social media went crazy, and you know what the NBA is like. Instagram, Twitter, it's like the school cafeteria. They kind of became Mean Girls, where it was sort of, okay, Andrew Wiggins' brother says this.
These memes are crazy, though. Like,
And you posted your, keep that same energy, which I would like to.
He still got to see me. He still got to see me. If I suit up and I walk that, he's going to be in the back, and I'm going to confront him about it. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to be like, tell me how you feel. Like, and the whole thing is, people do things because, they thought I was going to be gone. Let's just be honest. That's what he was thinking.
So all this stuff comes out, and THIBS obviously feels, and he said publicly, I think we can fix this. I don't think we have to trade him. You two have talked a few times. You've talked in person a few times. What is he communicating to you as all this is going on?
That everything is moving along. That's what he's saying. We know where your mind is at. We're doing everything that we can, yada, yada, yada. But everybody's really, really, really positive about the whole thing. But I know the truth. I know the truth. I know the whole truth. I know what I did. I know who I am to my core. Jimmy's a bad leader. Give it all here. I'll take it. I'll take it. But when you go around that locker room and you ask those guys who you want to play with, I'm telling you, nobody in that locker room is going to say that he's a bad teammate, that he's a bad guy. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. But that's how I look at it, and that's why you get the quotes that is all over the internet from me today, because I felt the type of way. I held it in. I haven't said anything to anybody. It's my first interview, Rach.
Yep.
I haven't said anything to anybody. And it comes out.
Yeah.
It comes out. So that's what it's all about. I just wanted to feel wanted.
So that end, what he said, I wanted to feel wanted, I think was really the crux of the messaging there. He talked about the contract. He says it's not about money, but he did make the point of, hey, you tell me I'm the most important guy on your team, so either show me or be honest. You heard him say that a million times. He's saying a bunch of stuff that is really critical of the way they've managed the summer with him. But the coach is also the president of the team, Stan, in Tom Thibodeau. And you said on Countdown last night that THIBS, the coach, was pretty happy with Jimmy Butler yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I talked to people on their staff. They said it was the best practice they had in the preseason. And so, obviously, you can't have every day probably be like that, but anything that raises your intensity and energy is something you're going to like as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, the irony here is that that's exactly what they traded him for, right? To push people, to be a culture changer for that organization. It's just a shame that it's come at a time where he's all out on it. But we're getting lost, I think, with all the conversation. While that was playing, we kind of chimed in together. It all comes down to money, right? If Minnesota had been comfortable paying him not now, it's not about now, it's about when he's 32, 33, 34, down the line. They were comfortable. He'd be a Minnesota Timberwolf and probably be happy to play this role every day. But they're not comfortable doing that, and you can make a million arguments why it would not be prudent to do so. But once you know that you're not in it for the long haul and he doesn't want to be any part of anything that doesn't involve him here for the long haul, you gotta move on, even if you love him as a player and as a person.
Well, I don't know about that because they didn't want to have to cut salary in other places to pay him. That doesn't mean that they will not pay him at the end of this year coming up. And then presumably, from what I'm hearing from your interview, if they paid him, Jimmy would be fine going forward. Clearly, he has a strong relationship with Tom, and I think the money would make the difference and the problem would be solved. So I do think from Tom's standpoint, he probably looks at it as salvageable. And Jimmy said it could be fixable, right? And I think what he meant is if they paid me, it would be fixable.
Well, so much of this job, and you've had both jobs, right? So much of the coach job, so much of the management job is relationship managing, right? And it's sort of making a player feel like, hey, if we can't do this right now, you have my word, we're going to do this at this point. That word has to mean something. You heard Jimmy talk about honesty a lot. Clearly, he feels he's been told one thing and shown another, and that's a whole separate thing about relationship building within a team. There are clearly some relationship issues, and what's fascinating is you have two guys in Jimmy and THIBS, who we thought had one of the tightest relationships in the NBA, and they still, I think, in so many ways, love and care about each other. And what my favorite moment of what Jimmy said to me yesterday is when he's like, THIBS is in his office today, smiling, clacking the door closed and going, I got him back. And that's basically what you're confirming right now.
Yeah, I think he probably was. I think that's what Tom was. He was happy. Tom doesn't mind the conflict. He knows it's not about everybody being comfortable,
right?
But it is about everybody being committed.
Yes.
And I think this is where it's going to help Tom having both jobs, is he's going to be out there on the court every day. He's going to be in the locker room every day. And that's what he's going to be able to figure out as they go forward. Are they all on the same page? Can we make this work? It'll take some time, but Tom will be able to figure that out.
See, that aspect is fascinating to me. Stay with us through the break, because this is what I want to really talk to you about. You are a perfect person to have this conversation with, because not that many people on earth have been in this situation of both being the president and...
He locked his door and he's smiling. He's laughing. THIBS, I know you, man. I know you. He's like, yeah.
You think he's happy with what happened today?
Yeah. THIBS like me. He likes confrontation.
So good. Welcome back to The Jump. Having little updates on the Jimmy Butler story. The Athletic first reporting Jimmy held a players-only meeting today. Jimmy confirmed that to me just a few minutes ago, and he was emphasizing the meeting was really to make clear to his teammates his issue is with management, not with them. And management, in this case, means also his coach, because I'm not only a client, I'm an owner. It is Coach Tom Thibodeau, and we're showing pictures of you right now because you also know the pressure that comes with the dual roles of head coach and team president. You mentioned it a little bit before the break. What are sort of, every situation has advantages and disadvantages. Anyone colors something as like, that's great, that's awful, that they've never held a job before. So tell us sort of how it impacted your role with the Pistons.
Well, there are things that are tough with it, right? But in this case with Tom, like I was saying to you, I think it's a real advantage. He's got his finger on the pulse of that team. He knows. He's not just close to it. He's right there inside of it. He's going to know as times go along if this just isn't going to work, the chemistry's not good, or if this is something that can get fixed. I think that's the biggest advantage of the job. The biggest problem is you lose objectivity and you get focused on the present much more than the future, because when you're a coach, let's face it, you want to win the next game.
Sure.
That's what you want to do, the next game. So you need a Scott Layden, or I had Jeff Bauer, and when Pop was doing it, he had R.C. Buford to give you a little longer view and help you keep perspective.
I mean, the biggest thing that sort of impacted that when you were at the Pistons is the Blake Griffin trade, right? That's the biggest trade, and sort of, how did that impact your coach hat versus your president hat?
Well, that was an easy one for both reasons, and everybody in our organization, from the owner on down, was all in on making that move for Blake. We thought it would help in the near term. In reality, we thought it would help more in this year, this year we're in right now, and next year than we did last year, because when you make those deals, you never know how it's going to go in the short term. You know, people have got to get on the same page quickly. So it was really made for the next couple of years.
Coach, I want to ask you, because part of this story isn't just whether THIBS wants to do it or not, is that it's a directive from ownership. And so when you have ownership breathing down your neck, for lack of a bit, how do you manage that? Because it's hard enough for presidents and general managers to do that on a day-to-day basis. But when you also have the burden of also coaching the team, how do you manage that added kind of duty?
Well, you've got to have great communication with your owner. At the end of the day, it's the owner's team. He's the guy that's paying everybody. It's his vision, and you've got to try to execute the best that you can. Now, all owners handle it differently. Some of them just hire people, and we want you to go do the job, and if you don't do it well enough, we'll change. But there's other people who, you know, whether it's Jerry Jones in football, guys like that, who want to be involved on a daily basis. So it's all different. I don't know Glenn Taylor. I don't know how much he's involved on a day-to-day basis, but certainly if he tells Tom that it has to be different than what Tom wants, Tom doesn't have a choice in that regard. He's got to go with the owner.
I mean, my favorite line in all of this from someone who held both of those jobs is Bill Parcells, who always says, you want me to cook the meal, you better let me buy the groceries. And I think that in this particular Jimmy Butler situation, we're seeing that more than anything, because this is what THIBS wanted, right? When he was in Chicago, clearly management made some decisions he didn't like with personnel, and then he was expected to go out on the floor and win with them, and those clashes were well documented. In this case, if he hadn't held both roles, it is possible that a president might have gotten those requests from Jimmy Butler that Jimmy is saying came 4 days after the season, and made a personnel move that Tibbs, the coach, who clearly wants Butler on his team, on that bench during the year, wouldn't have liked and would have felt like the rug would have been pulled out from under him because he worked so hard to get Jimmy there. So this, to me, is sort of the exact situation Tibbs wanted when he said he needed both of those roles.
Well, true. And he's clearly puts a high value on Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was second in the league last year in minutes played per game, only behind LeBron. He wants him on the floor. That doesn't mean to me that Tibbs will not deal him, but he holds him in high regard, which means he wants a lot in return. He doesn't have a deal right now that he feels would work. He knows there's some chemistry issues. If he had a deal where he thought he was getting comparable value for their team, either now or in the future, he'd make the deal. This idea that Tom Thibodeau refuses to make a move on Jimmy Butler, I'm not buying that. People are listening to the owner, who's pressing for a deal and thinking they can get in and get a one-sided deal against the Timberwolves, and Tom Thibodeau and Scott Layden are holding out against that.
Counterpoint. If Tibbs had been more proactive earlier in the summer on that front, maybe the deals wouldn't be as one-sided. The idea that, and again, that's the gift and the curse. The gift is, hey, give me some time, I can fix this. And maybe he can, or maybe he could have. But in a regular situation, that's why I always preach separation of church and state. Look, I get it. It stinks that we have to give up Jimmy, and it stinks that we operate in a league where fair value for trading a star, those days are long gone. But the earlier you get behind it, the better your chances, because once it gets out, and once all of this happens, your leverage drops, and you get the type of deals that you're talking about, where Tibbs like, I can't work with this, not in the short term and not even in the long term. That's a function of we took so long to get to this point where we're finally serious about entertaining that conversation.
Well, and it's also a function, though, of Jimmy making this thing public.
Oh, yeah.
Which I didn't understand from his point of view. If you want the trade, you've made your request to management, you know it's going to be harder for them to trade you and get value. He knows Tom Thibodeau respects him as a player and is going to want value in return. And when it's known that he wants out, it's harder to get that value, so he knows it's going to be hard.
I have no problem with him making it public after spending a few months quietly trying to see him manage the situation and it not happening. At some point, he feels like he had to advocate for his own interests, and it certainly seems like Tibbs was messaging him, yeah. And we heard in that interview him saying, hey, you're telling me one thing and you're doing another. So even if he was just hearing, yeah, we'll look into it, or yeah, it's all going to be fine, he clearly felt built up over time. You're saying one thing, you're not doing it with the contract. You're saying one thing about me being with this team, you're not doing it trying to get me traded. I need to speak publicly. I'm always okay with that.
Do we know that? Do we know that Tom wasn't trying to make a deal? We just know a deal wasn't made. That's all we know.
Jimmy says that Tibbs was communicating to him he wanted him still in Minnesota.
Well, sure, but again, there's no one in this league untradable. People always say that. You know, you'll hear that all the time in deals. Oh, this guy's untouchable. That's a bunch of BS. There's no one untouchable. Not Kevin Durant, not LeBron James, not anybody. It's a matter of what the price it takes to come back. So again, I don't buy the fact that Tom wants him on the team. Compared to what? What is the deal that would make him go the other way? We don't know that those deals haven't been discussed. We just know one hasn't been made. And this idea that Tom Thibodeau owes it to Jimmy Butler and owes it to the other teams to make a deal he doesn't seem as favorable, that's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I do too, but I think we know that aggression in deal making is a sliding scale. It's not just deal was made or deal wasn't made. It's, am I working the phones? Am I putting him out there, or am I kind of taking a passive approach? What we talked about with what Jimmy did, we had an example of this a few years ago with Goran Dragic. Same thing. Good dude, great locker room guy, very coachable, always wants the right thing. He was in a situation where he went from All-NBA to the next year they had 3 point guards. They're asking him to play small forward, and he keeps saying, guys, this isn't going to work. We need to make a change. We'll do something going with it. And they're just saying that stuff because that's the truth. That's what teams do sometimes. He'll get over it. We'll get over this. We'll get on a hot streak and it'll get fixed. And finally, Goran did something that burnt him to his soul. To this day, he regrets it, even though he got what he wanted. He went out there and he did what Jimmy did. He got in front of the cameras and said, this team lies to me. I can't trust these people. I want out. And 3 days later, he's in a Miami Heat uniform. Players do this because they feel like If I'm the nice guy, you don't care. So the only way I can get you to care is to be an absolute jerk. I have an analogy that I used backstage. I'm not going to use it because it's not fit for America. But it's like, it basically is like when you're dating someone and you don't want to be with them anymore and they're still trying to make it work. And at some point you have to make it clear to them, this will never, ever, ever work. And some of the things you say might be awful in order to get that through their head. But that's sometimes the only tack you have.
Well, and the other important thing to remember here is that the interests of the player and the interests of the team do not always align. Yeah. And it is, as you point out, Tom's job to work in the best interest of the team. It is Jimmy's job to work in the best interest of his career, because that is a diminished. He's only going to get older. He's only going to get more, all of this stuff. His playing time is sacred. His prime is sacred. It's his job to advocate for himself. You're absolutely right, though. It's Tom's job to advocate for him.
And I have no problem with the player advocating for himself. I don't. I think what a lot of people have done, though, opposing teams, right, is they think now they've got the leverage, and they're not getting deals that Tom and Scott think are legitimate deals. And right now, they're holding the line, and they're saying, no, we're not going to sell you for 10 cents on the dollar, just because you want to be gone and some other team thinks they have leverage on us. We're not going to do that.
And so far, at least, Glenn Taylor has not forced them to make those deals. So that's kind of where that leverage is sitting.
The pressure point.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see as the season goes on. Look, does Jimmy's presence become so disruptive there that THIBS changes his mind, that having him there isn't a good thing? Do the offers get worse because as time goes by, people are going to only have him for less because there's free agency the next summer? Or as time goes by, as we get toward the trade deadline, is there a team like Houston that suddenly feels, you know what, we're seeing something. We could beat the Warriors this year. We want to add Jimmy Butler. We'll pay the higher price. We'll have to see. Things are going to be fluid and can be changed. I'm okay with each side advocating for themselves because I don't love the illusion, oh, we're all in it together and we have the same ideas. I know you have to say that to be a functioning team on the court, but as DeMar DeRozan found out this summer,
I was waiting for you to make a Toronto reference.
No, by the way, players know this. Players know it's a business. Players are so insulted when someone says, it's a business, young man. They know it's a business, but they're told, hey, take the discount, stay home, do whatever. And I think it's better if everyone in their interest knows, hey, the team is going to do what it can to get its, and the player should do what it wants to get his. I'm sorry, it's true.
Be honest.
Right?
It is true, and it's the way it should be.
It is, right? Everyone's a grown-up here. The players are grown-up. Everybody gets it. Before we go to break, look, we've got to talk about a really great man in this league. I had the pleasure of meeting him a bunch of times when I was covering the Bulls as a college student, and he was as classy to me as a 20-year-old just trying to figure out the NBA as he was to every player he worked with. The legendary NBA coach Tex Winter, who passed away on Wednesday at the age of 96. He's most well known as the pioneer of the triangle offense that helped produce 11 NBA titles with the Bulls and Lakers under head coach Phil Jackson. Tex inducted into the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame in 2011. Michael Jordan issued the following statement, quote, I learned so much from Coach Winter. He was a pioneer, a true student of the game. His triangle offense was a huge part of our 6 championships with the Bulls. I was lucky to play for him. My condolences to his family. And our own Scottie Pippen posting a thread on Twitter with the following, Tex Winter was my biggest critic. He was also my biggest fan. A few words about the legendary coach who lived his 96 years as well as anyone could have. Tex was a man of fundamentals, ball movement, and player movement equals success. It was never about the individual. Without Tex, we may have never won a title. He taught us how to slice and dice our opponents on the offensive end. We had the GOAT, but it was Tex's knowledge and triangle offense that helped us shred defenses. Scottie and his former Bulls teammate B.J. Armstrong are scheduled to be here on set with us tomorrow, so we will talk about Tex a little bit more then. He deserves all of that praise. Smiles, as you remember, what a great guy he was. He had a cutting sense of humor, and also our deepest condolences as well to the entire Winter family.
6 Eastern after PTI. And the head coach from State University, New York, Rockport, Stan Van Gundy.
Welcome back to the Job. Stan Van Gundy in the House All Show, or at least till the end of this segment, because we're playing What Were You Thinking? With Stan Van Gundy.
What were you thinking in that clip?
Exactly. First up, Stan, we need to know what you were thinking when you heard Dwight Howard impersonating you right here on this show. Here's a refresher.
Dwight,
I think you need to do more stuff on defense. You haven't been blocking shots lately, and I need you to block 3 more shots a game. I'm like, dang, Stan, it's 9 blocks a game. Nobody's ever done it. I don't care. You can do it. You're supposed to be Superman. And I'm like, okay, Stan. But, you know, Stan is animated, man. And shout out to Stan Van Gundy.
Have you got... Dwight making it very clear on this show, he still feels very warmly about you despite all the history that's happened.
Well, no, the history was good. 95% of it was good. I mean, with Dwight, he was a great player. He was first-team All-NBA. He was a Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. He was incredible, and he's great at impersonation.
Yeah. Absolutely. What were you thinking, though, when you hear how he does you?
Well, I mean, I'd heard it before. He did it the whole time I was there. I just don't think my voice is quite that high, but everything else, he's pretty close.
There you go. There you go. Next up, what were you thinking when you posed, this is my favorite Stan Van Gundy moment, for your mixtape cover photo? Dun, 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 dun. Yep. It is the best picture in the NBA.
I never understood why it was a big deal, but look, I mean, Fat Joe had me in rap songs. Big Sean had me in rap songs. I mean, you know, I'm a cultural phenomenon.
That clip, by the way, I'm a cultural phenomenon. If somebody doesn't make that a GIF, I'm going to be very upset. Did you know who any of those artists were before you posed for before this all happened?
Absolutely. Well, Fat Joe used to sit next to our bench in Miami, and certainly if you're in Detroit, you know who Big Sean is. So, yeah, I knew who they were.
So pretty good. What did you think with this picture? When you first saw the picture, you didn't think what everyone else thought?
No, I didn't see what the big deal was, but everybody had a lot of fun with it.
Lighting.
So,
it's the lighting.
Yeah, I think it was. We were out doing a bike ride at night with our team. I mean, I don't
you know how you do. Finally, what were you thinking, Stan, when you decided to show off your handles at practice? We did this for Amin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Look at that. Look at that.
By the way, that's game speed for me.
He's talking the whole time, by the way. We don't have the audio of him saying, I just want you to do a basketball move. You can cross over, you can go behind your back, and he's doing all this stuff. Was this at practice? This was at camp, right?
This was at camp for kids. It was about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago. It actually hit top 10 plays of the day. Look, I was at a camp, and I didn't have anybody to demonstrate for me. So I ended up doing it myself, and that was pretty slow, by the way.
You know what else was happening in the audio? The campers going, ooh. They were so impressed, Coach.
They were so surprised. They weren't impressed. They were surprised that I could even do that at that speed.
I need a GIF of this also. I need so many. And yes, it is GIF, not GIF. Up next, we are going to discuss how Jimmy Butler's teammates should feel after yesterday's tumultuous practice and today's meeting. Stay tuned.
With Western Union, you can send
most talented player on our team, Cat. Who's the most God-gifted player on our teams? Wiggs. Wiggs got the longest arms, biggest hands, can jump the highest, can run the fastest. But, like, who plays the hardest? Me. I play hard. I play really hard. I put my body on the line every day in practice, every day in the games. Like, that's my passion. That's how I give to the game. That's how I give to you guys.
So Jeff Teague has been busy on all social media platforms.
Oh, boy.
We got to get to this first, though, that he posted and then later deleted this cryptic Instagram post yesterday. That was before the players-only meeting held today. Now, Teague has said something on Twitter about the players-only meeting not happening.
It's not a good day for Jeff
even though we know that it happened. I don't know. I'll be honest. I feel I'm decent at emojis. Not great. I'm not Paul Pierce, though, so I can do emojis, and I wasn't sure what all the hands and the this. Would you? Well, I know what this is, but what were the this?
I don't know. It's 2 5s and a finger up, and then the prayer hands, and then the dots. And I don't know if the ellipsis has anything to do with it. I have no idea.
Right?
And then who's in the picture, who's not in the picture, I don't know. I got nothing.
So my impression has always been that Jeff Teague and Jimmy are straight. And that Jimmy has talked about as recently as yesterday that he and Teague have had good conversations throughout this entire summer and even the last few weeks. What if you are one of Jimmy's teammates? You have to remember, some of these guys go back to their Bulls days together and are really tight. Some of these guys are Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. How are you supposed to feel about Jimmy Butler right now?
You can feel any way you want, to be quite honest. Every one of them is going to feel differently. You can feel like, hey, this guy's supposed to be our leader. He's not even committed to being here. You can feel like, hey, this guy makes us go. I'm glad to have him back. Doesn't matter. What matters is You got to do your job, and you got to learn. These young guys have to learn. These kind of things happen in the NBA. You got to be a pro, and you got to come out and do your job, and you got to get between the lines and make it work.
Yeah, there's a playoff hunt that starts on day one in the Western Conference.
That's for sure.
You can't waste time in
That's
your feelings.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Final words, we got 20 seconds. If you're Coach Tibbs, what do you do tomorrow?
You should go to practice and go to work. They obviously spent today talking. Now it's time to go out and go to work.
Man, it's going to be interesting. I think they have a preseason game tomorrow, and then, the season starts next Tuesday. Thanks to Amin and Stan Van Gundy for joining me today.